Karen says I showed my hoo-ha to her kid, but I'm a femboy. This incident with the entitled mother happened back when I took a special school course to get my middle and high school exams and studied to become an auto mechanic. Let's bring on the crazies. My boyfriend and I usually have a date night every Friday, and this particular evening we decided to go to the Greek restaurant a couple of blocks from our apartment downtown. We met up at home after work to get changed. I'm a femboy, so I used some time to get ready, combed and washed my hair, put a bit of makeup on and found my best dress. A black Bardot frill details bodycon, just so you have an idea of what I wore since it comes into play later. But we start to walk downstairs and onto the restaurant. This restaurant requires a pre-order to be able to get a seat, and we had reserved a week earlier after our last date. So we get there and get seated, after our wishes, in the smoking allowed area since both of us are smokers. We sit down and decide to order a beer each, so we had a drink until our food was ready, and then fired up a cigarette. Enter the entitled family. The family got seated right next to us. We hear a child's voice say, "Mommy, it smells. I don't like it." "I know, sweetie." The lady looks at us smoking. "Excuse me." We didn't think she was talking to us. A few seconds pass and then, "Excuse me?" We look over at her. "My son is uncomfortable you're smoking. Could you put them out?" My boyfriend says, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but if you don't like us smoking, why did you choose to seat in the smoking allowed area?" "Smoking is not allowed. This is a restaurant after all." My boyfriend is very good at not taking any BS. He points to the at least 15 signs within our site that say allowed. Look. However, she seems immune to reality. "Those are fake. You put them there since you knew that smoking wouldn't be allowed. Just stop smoking near my kid." The waiter got to our area and called out our number. She says, "Oh, that's our order." We were shocked, but we called the waiter over. What the lady didn't think about was that we got a note with a number by the waiter when we were placing our orders. They'd not ordered yet, so I showed our number to the waiter. The lady, of course, just denies this. "She stole our note. That working girl who's not wearing anything but lingerie in public." For those of you who Googled the dress when I said it earlier, it's nothing close to lingerie or anything like that. A bit of a tight fit maybe, but nothing more alluring than that. The lady keeps on going. "She even started harassing my son and me, showing her privates." My boyfriend and I looked at each other and started laughing. "Look at this, they're laughing at us." The waiter says, "Is this true?" To which I explain, "No, it isn't." And I explain that she didn't want us smoking and tried to take our food. The waiter, however, asks, "Do you have any proof?" She looked at us. I'm short and skinny, and I don't look my age, so I always bring my passport in my purse. The waiter checks it out and then asks the mother, "Are you sure she showed you her downstairs area?" "Yes, of course." "Okay. For one thing, he's a guy," and the look on the mother's face was priceless. We got our drinks on the house, and the entitled family got escorted out of the restaurant. We still laugh about it once in a while. Strong disconnect to reality on display from that woman. I do kind of wonder if she really believed that the couple bought a whole bunch of smoking allowed signs to pin up at the restaurant just to gaslight not only the other nearby diners, but also all the employees at the restaurant. And although I wish that was the case, it seems a lot more likely that this woman was just relying on her fluent use of BS language to just talk over and through any difficulties that came up. I'm also assuming that she would have had to agree to sit in the smoking area over the phone to have ended up there in the first place. In which case, let's throw being a bad parent onto the list of charges. So good riddance to this lady, just an appalling liar who's prepared to throw other people out of a restaurant because she didn't plan ahead properly. Poor kid. Hopefully they'll be happier at McDonald's anyway. I'm happy that their mother got the fitting just desserts for her behavior. Knock on my door despite my no soliciting sign? Alright, just sit on the curb and forget about selling anything in my town for the rest of your day. We moved into a new cookie-cutter neighborhood, and since then we've been bothered by pest control, carpet cleaners, lawn care, solar panel firms, among other things. This was multiple times a day at first, but then we put up a no soliciting sign, and for a while it worked pretty well. Fast forward to this week, and salespeople have been ringing my doorbell daily despite my sign. I started by chewing them out and finding their businesses online to leave bad Yelp and Google reviews about the encounter, and then I researched city ordinances. Apparently, they need a permit, which most of them don't have. and they can't ignore a no soliciting sign. It's $250 per violation. Awesome. I had my first victim yesterday who acknowledged that he'd read my sign but thought his info about solar panels was something I'd want to hear, even though I specifically had a sign because I didn't want to be bothered. I chewed him out, and when he left, I called the police non-emergency number. The police came after only 15 minutes and caught up with him down the street. I don't know if he was cited, but he just sat on the curb after the police left, probably because they told him to stop knocking on doors, period, due to a lack of a permit. He had to wait there for at least an hour and a half for his ride. In short, sales guy ignored my no soliciting sign deliberately, got talked to by the police, possibly fined, and had to sit for a few hours waiting for his ride. Is that too mean? Am I the jerk? Hey, listen, viewers, did you know that laws like this existed? Because I would bet that a bunch of you just got real excited to learn that this was an option for you. As with a lot of the guesses I have to make, I'm guessing that having enough of these salespeople come to your doors that you have to buy a damn sign to stop them must kind of be a US thing? Because I don't see more than 2 to 3 salespeople a year in any of the countries that I've lived in. It's a shame that the punishment is happening to the lower-level street scrubs rather than the organization that has conned them into this unregistered commission-based job, the job that probably also told them to ignore the signs, but you have every right to defend your privacy. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Entitled mum decides I don't belong in my workplace because I'm a girl, and then I get an asthma attack. So I'm the only girl in an auto collision class at a technical college. I also have extreme asthma, so I often have to wear a dust mask and take an inhaler every half hour to make sure that I don't have an asthma attack and have to go to the hospital. At the school, sometimes the other teachers will come down and ask us to detail their cars for them, and we often do. Since going into any automotive field, you'll start as a detailer, and we need to constantly stay on top of our game for it. On this day, I saw a woman who I know taught one of the other classes come in with her kid while I was working on sanding the paint off a car that needed to be repainted. It was really old and looked really trashy. I had to sand it down and remove the wheels. The kid looked about 13-ish, so I thought at first that maybe he was a middle school kid coming to check out the class to see if he wanted to join. But then I overheard his mum talking to my teacher about washing her car. I got up to overhear because I'm extremely nosy, and I noticed that the kid seemed to be a bit bothered by the dust. A lot of people were sanding that day, and I knew the dust bugged me, so I figured someone who wasn't so used to it was going to have trouble. I went into the tool room where we keep the dust masks, and I found a disposable one. As a note, I had a thicker mask that day as I couldn't find some of our disposable ones a few days ago, and didn't want to waste the really nice one that I'd found. I found the disposable ones this time though. I bought him the mask and handed it to him, taking mine off so that I could talk to him and be more polite. I say, "Here, you look like you could use it." The kid takes the mask and slips it on. "Thanks, the dust is really thick in here." I say, "Yeah, I know, if you're not used to it, it'll bug you. It still bugs me." We both chuckle a bit, and then when the mother sees me, as my teacher walked away to add her to our schedule, the lady gave me this weird, disgusted look, seeing my dusty clothes. "Young lady, where can my son get that uniform? I don't want his clothes to get dirty while we're here." I thought she was confused about something and said, "Oh, sorry, this is my uniform. Your son will have to get one when he joins the class." Then she looked confused. "Why do you have a uniform like that? Shouldn't you be wearing scrubs or something?" I ask, "What do you mean?" She then says, "Oh, come on, you're a girl. There aren't any other girls here. Shouldn't you be in the nursing program or the child development program?" I'm used to people thinking I belong in those programs until they see me in uniform, or people in general thinking that I should work with kids, so this doesn't bother me so much. I just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mom, but no, I work here in the shop." There are other girls in the afternoon class, though. There was a morning and afternoon class, and the afternoon class had 4 girls in it, I think. She looks appalled. "What a hussy. I'll bet you don't know a thing about cars. I'll bet you only joined this class to flaunt around your whore clothes to these innocent boys." For some background, I'll have you know I'm probably the most conservative person in the class, mostly because I am a girl. I change in the tool room since there isn't a girls' locker room, and I always wear my work clothes over the top of my regular clothes. I'm also wearing the exact same thing as the guys, as my clothes are men's clothes, and there's nothing remotely revealing about them in any way. So I say, "Mom, First, I have a boyfriend and I really don't need to attract the attention of these men. Second, if I were to only be here for the men, I would have been kicked out a long time ago because I'd be too focused on getting a man rather than the multitude of tests we have to take on a bi-weekly basis, and the hard work that we have to do here alongside that. Third, I don't know who you think you are coming in here and talking to me like that, but I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't treat me this way, as I'm aware that when your car comes through us to be cleaned, I'll be part of the group cleaning your car. She goes red in the face. Absolutely not. I'll not have some hussy trying to seduce these poor boys into doing disgusting things inside of my family car. You're scarring my son and you need to leave. I rolled my eyes and decided to just leave her alone to get back to work, putting my mask back on. A few minutes later, the teacher still hadn't gotten back to her, as he was pulled away by some of the other students, so this lady came back over to interrogate me some more. I'd been taking this car apart so that we could paint it better, as an extension cord was attached to it and we couldn't paint that. What do you think you're doing? I sigh, but keep my cool. I'm using a screwdriver to the hooks, holding the extension cord to this cart so that we can paint it. Let my son do it. He knows how to work his way around tools. The kid looks mortified and he was shaking his head. I say, sorry, but I can't do that. I have lots of work to do, and the hooks are a little bit weird to get off. But of course, this lady wasn't having that. Take off that stupid mask when you speak to me. Why are you even wearing it? Trying to lure my son in so he feels more welcomed into your little world because you're both wearing masks? I'm really annoyed now. No, I'm wearing the mask because the dust bothers my asthma. I saw that the dust was bothering your son too, so I gave him one. I then pulled my asthma inhaler out to show her because I thought it might keep her from going full entitled parent on me. Big mistake. Put that thing away, and now you're trying to pull him in with your illegal substances. I quickly put it away, but the damage was done. And if the dust is so bad, you should give your son my mask. He obviously needs it more than you do. You're probably faking it for attention and substances. Now, my mask was much thicker and was really helping me. Her son was clearly fine with the one I gave him, and I knew he was just going to throw it away when he left, which is what those masks were for. So I say, I'm sorry, but I really need this mask to keep the dust out of my lungs. Your son seems to be fine with the one I gave him. No, he has far worse asthma than you could imagine. He needs that mask. Well, I'm sorry, but these masks aren't disposable like the one I gave your son. I need to use mine for a long time. He'll only need his until you leave. I don't care. Give me your mask and get out of this garage, or else I'll tell your teacher that you were harassing my son. At this point, I'm really mad, but I'd never lose my temper in my workplace. We have cameras all over the place, and the guys were looking over as this woman lost her mind at me. The teacher could also see through the window of our separate classroom, though he wasn't looking at that moment as he was talking to another student. I said, go tell him if you really want to. I wasn't really afraid of her accusations, and I crossed my arms at her. But the guys weren't having it, and they started coming over. One of them looked ready to physically fight her. Hey, why don't you get the hell out of here before we tell him how you're harassing her? She has more of a right to be here than you do. How dare you talk to me like that? Do you know who I am? Another one chimes in. Yeah, you're the lady who came to ask us for a favor that we don't have to do, and probably aren't going to do because of the way you're treating one of our hardest workers. Wait until your teacher hears about this. You'll all be removed from this school for assault and harassment. At this point, she's interrupted by our teacher coming out of the classroom. No, actually, you need to leave. We won't be doing this service for you. You could see the cogs turning in her mind. Your little hussy of a student was trying to touch my son. I want her removed from the school and the police called on her at once. I want them, she pointed at the guys who were trying to help, to be arrested for attacking me and threatening my son. I don't think that's going to happen. I sat there and watched you come over and bother my students while they were working. We're not going to be washing your car, and I'd appreciate it if you left and wouldn't come back to my shop. She lost her mind, but she grabbed her kid by the wrist and dragged him out, but not before ripping my dust mask off, taking an air hose that I'd been using to blow the dust off when I sand, and blew a whole bunch of fricking dust into my face. I ended up needing to step out of the shop and sit in the classroom for the rest of the time, so that I could get my asthma back under control, as I couldn't stop coughing and I had red marks on the side of my face from when she took my mask, and the elastic straps had snapped on my face. Now, if I have to go near her class, I make sure I'm not alone, as I'm a little nervous she'd try something and I'm really bad at confrontation. Okay, update. Everyone's telling me to go to the police or get her in trouble. I really didn't want to go to the police as I get really anxious and I don't like confrontation. One of my friends in my class did go to the principal for me since I said I didn't want to go. He's looking into it right now and she's in some hot water. Okay, second update. She's officially been fired and she's in trouble with the police. They want me to go into a trial and give my piece, but I'm a little nervous about going. I really don't like confrontation. As a note from the narrator, I did in fact dig through the internet and find the trial that our author had to go to. And get this, this wasn't the only time that our poor author had to go to court because some awful parent of a prospective student had physically attacked her in the class. So first of all, let's state clearly for the people in the back, in no way was our author the jerk. How did this lady have a heavily asthmatic son, and at the same time never in her life have encountered an inhaler before? She thought it was, what, illegal substances? Crazy. Now, onto the trial of this woman, and let me reassure you that as insane as she seemed up until this point, just wait, you ain't seen nothing yet. I wasn't sure how to put the trial into words because it was a lot, and I really hated being involved with it. I hate blowing things out of proportion, so the fact that I had to go to court because not one but two different parents had attacked me in class was terrible. I'm just going to try and keep it short and simple because just thinking about it makes my chest hurt. I'll just mention the interesting parts. Also, my parents took care of a lot of it since I didn't know what was going on, so I don't know too many details about what happened outside of the court. So, here is the story of the trial of the entitled mum. We got into the courtroom and I remember feeling sick to my stomach just looking around. The only thing that I could see was the entitled mum and her kid with their lawyer. I also saw the dad, who sat in the stands behind them, looking like he wished he could just disappear, and two girls, who I think were the kid's sisters, I don't know, sitting next to the dad. My parents were with me and we had our lawyer. He was pretty nice actually, and even though he was serious, he kept telling me it was going to be okay. We sat down and everything got started. The whole incident was reiterated. I could already feel my stomach turning, and I sort of tried to block out a lot of it. My teacher had volunteered to come in as a witness, and during his segment, he told what he saw. He talked about how he saw this lady go up to me and start talking to me. He never heard what she said and assumed she was just asking me questions about the class, but once he saw her grab my mask, he stopped what he was doing to come out and get her off me. He heard the lads talking back to her and wanted to make sure she wasn't going to do anything to them as well. Of course, at this point, the lady jumped up and loudly started to make up a story about how she thought I was suffocating under the mask and how she had tore it off to try and save me. Her lawyer tried to shut her up and make her sit back down, but the judge did that on his own. My teacher was the only witness that they brought in. My classmates could have been brought in, but since most of them were under 18, the class consisted of seniors and juniors between 16 to 18 years old, their parents didn't want them involved, which was fine by me. I didn't want them involved either. Short and simple, remember? Well, the charges were brought up as assault and lying in court. She didn't deny grabbing my mask, she just lied about the reasons up until now. She was going to get a couple of months in jail and a year of probation with a bunch of fines, when she did the dumbest thing she could think of. She heard her charges, stood up from her seat, went up to a bailiff and slapped him across the face. She then went on this huge tangent about how this was such bullcrap and how it didn't matter anyway and how I deserved it for being such a little working girl and throwing myself at all of these young men and that I wasn't going to go anywhere in such a career and hoped that what she did taught me a lesson. So she was taken away for a longer sentence. You know what? I'm sorry that our author had to go through the indignity of going through what was a very stressful and disruptive series of events leading up to the trial, but can I just say, absolutely freaking vindicated. There must have been a part of your brain wondering what this lady and her lawyer would concoct, and the possibility that maybe they'd fight back and get off scot-free whilst subtly making your life a living hell at your school. So although these things are never comfortable to watch, it must have been in a way a huge relief to watch her go down like a lead-filled, screaming, shrieking sexist balloon in court. How did this woman become a teacher? There's just such a baffling lack of social decorum on display here, and for that matter, a complete absence of any self-preservation. Let me restate. This woman was teaching classes for a living, complete with her tendency to fly into shrieking violent rages. She probably should have been removed a lot sooner, and I'm surprised she wasn't in court earlier as well. It's a fitting end, and here's hoping that she learns her lesson. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.